Have you ever wondered what happens when regular guys in their garages decide to build cars that cost more than most people's houses? I'm talking about homemade builds that make Lamborghinis look like budget cars. These aren't your typical weekend warrior projects. These are obsessions that consume decades and drain bank accounts faster than a blown head gasket drains coolant. What you're about to see will blow your mind. I've spent months researching the most expensive homemade car builds on the planet, and the numbers are absolutely insane. We're talking about garage-built machines that cost more than most people's retirement funds. But here's the thing, every single one of these builds represents something money can't buy: pure passion, incredible skill, and the kind of dedication that separates true car guys from weekend warriors. By the end of this video, you'll see 10 builds that prove sometimes the most expensive cars aren't made in factories. They're born in garages by guys who refuse to compromise on their vision. And trust me, the final build on this list will make you question everything you thought you knew about expensive cars. But before we dive in, let me set the stage for what we're really talking about here. These aren't your typical hot rod builds where you drop a crate engine into a classic chassis and call it a day. We're talking about complete, ground-up builds, where every single component has been touched by human hands, where craftsmen spend months perfecting details that most people will never even notice. Build number 10, 1967 Ford Mustang, ECD Ghost, $280,000. Let's start with something that might seem reasonable compared to what's coming. The ECD Ghost Mustang clocks in at just under $280,000, but don't let that fool you into thinking this is some basic Restamod. ECD Automotive Design took a '67 Mustang and completely reimagined it. We're talking about a full carbon fiber body, custom suspension, and an engine that's been built from the ground up. Every single component has been touched, modified, or completely replaced. But here's what makes this build special. It's not just about throwing money at parts. The attention to detail is what drives the cost through the roof. Custom interior work, hand-fabricated pieces, and hundreds of hours of labor from master craftsmen. When you're paying for this level of craftsmanship, you're not just buying a car, you're buying a piece of automotive art. The paintwork alone on this build takes over 200 hours to complete. We're talking about multiple base coats, custom mixed colors, and a finish that's so deep you could swim in it. That's the kind of attention to detail that separates a $250,000 build from your typical restoration. Build number 9, restored Land Rover Defenders, around $300,000. Now, I know what you're thinking, 300 grand for a Defender. Hear me out. These aren't your typical Defenders that you see crawling through mall parking lots. We're talking about complete ground-up restorations that take these utilitarian workhorses and turn them into luxury off-road machines that would make a Range Rover jealous. Every bolt is replaced, every surface is refinished, and the drivetrain is completely rebuilt to modern standards. Custom leather interiors, upgraded suspension systems, and modern conveniences seamlessly integrated into classic designs. The labor alone on these builds can stretch over 2 years, and when you're paying master craftsmen to work on every detail, those hours add up fast. What really drives the cost on these Defender builds is the fact that you're essentially building a brand new vehicle using a 30-year-old design. The chassis gets completely stripped, sandblasted, and rebuilt with modern materials. The engine bay gets rewired with modern electrical systems that actually work reliably. Even the door handles get rebuilt to tighter tolerances than Land Rover ever achieved from the factory. Build number 8, Peterson Engineering Bentleys, $450,000 to $770,000. Here's where things start getting really serious. Peterson Engineering doesn't just restore Bentleys, they resurrect them from the dead and make them better than they ever were from the factory. We're talking about pre-war Bentleys that have been completely rebuilt with modern engineering hidden beneath classic bodywork. Think about it. You're taking a car from the 1920s or 1930s and making it reliable enough to drive cross-country while maintaining that classic character that makes these cars legendary. The engine work alone can cost more than most people's entire car collection. These aren't just rebuilds, they're complete re-engineering projects. Modern braking systems, updated electrical systems, and drivetrains that have been rebuilt to tolerances that would make a Swiss watchmaker proud. But here's the kicker. The waiting list for one of these builds is measured in years, not months. When you're dealing with this level of craftsmanship, you don't just write a check and drive away. You're commissioning a piece of automotive history. The metalwork on these Bentleys is where the real artistry shows. We're talking about craftsmen who can shape aluminum and steel by hand, creating body panels that fit better than anything that ever came from the original factory. These guys are the last of a dying breed. True metal artists who learned their trade from masters who've been doing this work for generations. Build number 7. Nichols N1A, around $500,000. The Nichols N1A represents something special in the world of homemade supercars. This isn't some kit car with a fancy body. This is a completely original design that was conceived, engineered, and built from scratch. Steve Nichols, the guy behind this build, didn't just want to build a fast car. He wanted to build the perfect car. We're talking about a carbon fiber monocoque chassis, custom suspension geometry, and aerodynamics that were developed using computational fluid dynamics software that most race teams would kill for. The attention to detail is what separates this from every other homemade supercar attempt. Custom machined components, hand-laid carbon fiber bodywork, and an interior that rivals anything coming out of Italy. When you're building everything from scratch, every single component becomes a custom piece, and custom pieces cost serious money. Here's something most people don't realize about builds like this. The development costs are insane. Before you even start building the actual car, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on computer modeling, wind tunnel testing, and prototype components. Steve Nichols went through multiple iterations of major components before settling on the final design, and each iteration costs serious money. Build number 6, Jimenez Novia W16, around $855,000. Now, we're getting into territory that most people can't even comprehend. The Jimenez Novia W16 is what happens when a guy decides that existing supercars just aren't good enough. This build centers around a W16 engine, the same basic power plant that Bugatti uses in the Veyron. But here's the thing, sourcing one of these engines isn't like ordering parts from Summit Racing. We're talking about a power plant that costs more than most people's houses. And that's before you even think about building a car around it. The chassis work alone represents thousands of hours of engineering and fabrication. Custom suspension components, bespoke aerodynamics, and a transmission that can handle the massive torque output of a W16 engine. Every single system in this car had to be designed from scratch because nothing off the shelf can handle this level of performance. What makes this build truly insane is the cooling system requirements. A W16 engine doesn't just need a radiator, it needs a complete thermal management system with multiple heat exchangers, custom ducting, and cooling fans that could probably cool a small office building. All of that has to be integrated into a chassis that still looks like a supercar, not a science experiment. Build number 5, DiDia 150 Dream Car, around $1.5 million, adjusted for today. The DiDia 150 is legendary in the custom car world, and for good reason. Built in the 1960s for a cost that would equal about $1.5 million today, this car represents the absolute pinnacle of custom automotive craftsmanship from the golden age of American car culture. This wasn't just a custom car, it was a rolling piece of art. Hand-formed aluminum bodywork, custom interior appointments, and attention to detail that would make modern luxury car manufacturers weep with envy. Every single component was either heavily modified or completely custom made. But here's what makes this build truly special. It was built during an era when this kind of craftsmanship was still possible. The skilled metalworkers, upholsterers, and craftsmen who built this car represented a dying breed even back then. Today, finding people with these skills is nearly impossible, which is why similar builds cost even more now. The DiDia 150 featured innovations that wouldn't become mainstream for decades. Automatic door systems, climate control, and even early forms of what we'd now call infotainment systems. Remember, this was the 1960s. Most cars didn't even have air conditioning, and this thing had features that wouldn't show up in production cars until the 1990s. Build number 4. Singer reimagined Porsche 911, around $1.6 million. Singer vehicle design has taken the concept of Porsche restoration and turned it into high art. These aren't just restored 911s, they're completely reimagined versions that combine the best of classic Porsche design with modern engineering and materials. Every single component is either restored to better than new condition or completely replaced with modern alternatives. Carbon fiber body panels, custom suspension systems, and engines that have been rebuilt to specifications that exceed anything Porsche ever produced in the original era. But here's what really drives the cost: the obsessive attention to detail. We're talking about hundreds of hours spent on components that most people will never see. Custom machine parts, hand-stitched interiors, and paintwork that takes months to complete. When you're paying for this level of perfection, every hour of labor costs serious money. The engine work on a Singer 911 is where things get really wild. These aren't just rebuilt air-cooled flat sixes. They're completely re-engineered power plants that combine classic Porsche character with modern reliability and performance. Custom pistons, rods, and crankshafts machined to tolerances that exceed what Porsche achieved in their race cars. The result is an engine that sounds like a classic 911, but performs like a modern supercar. Build number 3, Hennessey Venom F5, around $1.6 million. The Hennessey Venom F5 represents American engineering at its absolute finest. This isn't just a fast car, it's a statement that American builders can compete with anyone in the world when it comes to creating ultimate performance machines. The heart of this beast is a twin-turbo V8 that produces over 1,800 horsepower. But building an engine that can reliably produce this kind of power isn't just about bolting on bigger turbos. We're talking about custom-forged internals, exotic materials, and engineering tolerances that would make NASA proud. The chassis and bodywork represent thousands of hours of development and testing. Carbon fiber construction throughout, active aerodynamics, and suspension systems that can handle the massive forces generated by this level of performance. Every single component has been designed and built to handle speeds that most cars can't even dream of reaching. Here's what blows my mind about the Venom F5. It's not just built to go fast in a straight line. This thing is engineered to be a complete performance machine that can handle road courses, drag strips, and everything in between. The suspension system alone cost more to develop than most people spend on their entire car collection, and it shows in the way this beast handles at triple-digit speeds. Build number 2, Laraki Epitome, around $2 million. The Laraki Epitome represents what happens when unlimited budget meets unlimited ambition. This Moroccan-built supercar combines exotic materials, cutting-edge technology, and craftsmanship that borders on the obsessive. We're talking about a carbon fiber monocoque chassis, custom V8 engine producing over 1,200 horsepower, and bodywork that looks like it was designed by aliens. But what really drives the cost is the fact that everything is custom. There are no off-the-shelf components in this build. Everything from the smallest fasteners to the major structural components has been designed and manufactured specifically for this car. The interior alone represents months of work by master craftsmen. Custom leatherwork, exotic materials, and attention to detail that rivals the finest luxury goods in the world. When you're building at this level, you're not just creating a car, you're creating a piece of automotive sculpture. What makes the Epitome truly special is the level of engineering that went into making it actually drivable. It's one thing to build a show car that looks incredible sitting still. It's another thing entirely to build something that can actually perform at the level its appearance promises. The aerodynamics, cooling systems, and structural engineering all had to work together to create a car that's as functional as it is beautiful. Build number 1, Laraki Sahara, over $2 million. And here we are, the most expensive homemade car build on the planet. The Laraki Sahara doesn't just cost over $2 million. It represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible when money is no object and compromise isn't in the vocabulary. This isn't just a car, it's a rolling showcase of every exotic material and advanced technology available to automotive engineers. We're talking about a chassis that incorporates aerospace-grade materials, bodywork that's more art than transportation, and an interior that would make a Rolls-Royce look modest. But here's what really sets this apart from everything else on this list. The level of customization is beyond anything most people can comprehend. Every single surface, every component, every detail has been designed and crafted specifically for this one car. There are no parts bin components, no off-the-shelf solutions. Everything is bespoke. The engine alone represents a masterpiece of engineering. Custom built from the ground up, producing massive horsepower while maintaining the reliability needed for a car that's actually meant to be driven. The transmission, suspension, braking systems, everything has been engineered to work together as a complete package. Here's something that really puts the Sahara's cost in perspective. The development time alone represents over 5 years of work by some of the most skilled automotive engineers and craftsmen in the world. When you're paying master-level craftsmen for 5 years of full-time work, the labor costs alone would bankrupt most small countries. Add in the exotic materials, custom tooling, and one-off components, and you start to understand how a single car can cost more than most people's entire net worth. So there you have it. 10 homemade car builds that cost more than most people's houses. From the affordable $280,000 East Caribbean dollars Mustang, all the way up to the mind-bending Laraki Sahara at over $2 million. These builds prove that sometimes the most expensive cars aren't made in factories. But here's the thing that really gets me about these builds. They're not just about money. Sure, you need serious cash to build at this level, but what really drives these projects is pure passion. These are guys who refuse to compromise on their vision, who are willing to spend years and fortunes chasing automotive perfection. Every single one of these builds represents thousands of hours of labor, countless sleepless nights, and the kind of dedication that most people reserve for their families. These aren't just cars, they're dreams made real. Proof that with enough skill, determination, and yes, money, you can build something that rivals anything coming out of the world's most prestigious factories. What really strikes me about these builds is how they push the boundaries of what's possible. When you're not constrained by mass production requirements, safety regulations, or profit margins, you can create things that simply wouldn't be possible in a traditional manufacturing environment. These builders are free to chase perfection in ways that big manufacturers never could. And let's be honest, most of these cars will never see serious miles. They're rolling pieces of art, investments in automotive culture, and statements about what's possible when human creativity meets unlimited resources. But that doesn't make them any less important. These builds inspire the next generation of builders, push technology forward, and prove that the art of automotive craftsmanship is alive and well. The next time someone tells you that the best cars come from big manufacturers, show them this video. Sometimes the most incredible machines are born not in sterile factories, but in garages by guys who refuse to accept that good enough is good enough. What's the most you've ever spent on a car build? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world's most expensive homemade builds, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because we've got more incredible automotive content coming your way.